everybody. Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 350. Shit. 6. I had to check. I forgot.
I actually like show 350 shit. That was good.
That's the show's title right there. We've already said that. Yes, 356. And I am hosting this week. I am your host, Tony Schaefer, at the helm. And we are boldly venturing into advanced technology, mobility, sustainable energy, and all of that fun stuff about transportation. Now, fortunately, I'm not doing this alone. I'm going to go through the panel, but first I want to introduce my wingman. He's the man in the bottom left corner of America, the man who has solar panels powering this show. He is Mr. Russell Frost.
I'm actually not doing the show. You're on your own.
All right, moving on.
Hey, everybody! I'm not hosting, so I get to sit here and just make snide remarks in the comments.
Yeah, remember when we had a chat and that was always the best because whoever wasn't hosting could just sit in the chat. That was fun.
Someday again, we'll have that.
We'll have that back. In the meantime, I'm going to kick it over to our friend in Boulder, Colorado, the owner of Boulder Hybrids, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back. That's it.
All right. So we'll go up north to our friend, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hey, everybody. How are you today? We've got a great show for you tonight. Lots of stuff to discuss. So let's get to it.
And last but not least, a long-time champion of hypermiling and efficiency, and he's got his own YouTube channel.
Charger reviews.
Charger reviews. He is Mr. Casey Green.
Hi, everybody. It is amazingly in the 60s outside, so not for long, but
yeah, I think we saw mid 40s today.
Oh wow!
And it feels a lot better on the way up than it did on the way down because in October it hits mid 40s and people are like running for cover. And in February and March it hit mid 40s. People are like taking their coats off, like
flip flops.
Yeah, I know. Like long pants are redundant at this point.
Oh man.
So I want to kick it off with a story that harks back to something we had been thinking about and talking about for years, but we didn't have the numbers behind it. And thanks to the the U.S. The UCS USA, which are the Union of Concerned Scientists. If you haven't been to their website, if you don't follow the Union of Concerned Scientists, you really should. There's some really good fact-based, actual science, non-biased, true stuff. And you need to go look them up, and you need to follow them, and follow them on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. So they finally came out with a study that backs up everything we had been saying, which is, according to them, ride-hailing trips on Uber and Lyft result in an estimated 69% more climate pollution on average than the trips that they displace. Now, there's a couple of things here and a few things that go into this. So one of them is the fact that we've talked about for a long time is Uber and Lyft drivers are deadheading a lot of the time. And you might ask, what's a deadhead? Well, there are people who like the Grateful Dead, and they listen to a lot of mellow music. And from what I'm told, there's some LSD and some pot involved. And so deadheading in this context means that they are driving around alone without a passenger.
On LSD.
On LSD. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I just got a text from our attorneys. We're not allowed to refer to drivers on attorneys. Anyway, they're driving around solo looking for more rides. And it is the fact that they're driving around without any passengers, and they're driving around in inefficient cars. They're not necessarily driving hybrids and EVs. And as a result, rather than having a car parked in front of your house that you drive to the restaurant and that's it, and then you park it there and then you get in it and you drive home, now you have somebody driving solo coming over to pick you up to drive you to the restaurant and drop you off, and then they're driving solo again going to their next stop. Now, what I just described sounds a lot like taxi cabs. And so there's the argument, well, what makes hail rides worse than taxi cabs? One of the big differences is that the local municipalities have a lot more power over taxi cabs because the taxi cab permits are issued to them by the municipalities. And if the municipalities want the taxi cabs to clean up their cars, well, they can just pass a regulation like we did here in Chicago, where they wanted taxi cab fleets to have a certain percentage of hybrids and plug-in hybrids. And so they had to do that. Also, taxi cabs have a tendency to park more. And so they're not deadheading. They're parked until they're hailed, and then they'll go pick you up. So they did that comparison. But that's not even just the end of the story, because not only are they driving around solo wasting fuel, but they're also adding congestion. So like I said, you get in your car at your home and you drive to the restaurant. That's just you going to the restaurant. But now they're driving around, coming over to pick you up, and on their trip to pick you up, they're one more car on the road. Only it's not just one more car. It's a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen other ride-sharing deadheads taking up space. And what they found, and I thought this was fascinating, in the article published by the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I am sure I'm not going to find it really quickly, but in the cities that they monitored, let's see, here it is. In San Francisco, the average speed decreased 3 miles per hour in the time between 2010 2016. In Manhattan, the average speed decreased 2 miles per hour. And this is exclusively because there's now an increased amount of congestion on the road. So the speed is dropping, the average speed is dropping. You have more cars on the road. Those cars are spending more time emitting pollutants and burning gas and doing everything. And as a result, what you end up with is the fact that we're just pumping more pollutants at ground level than if we didn't have the ride sharing at all. Oh, one more thing before I open it up and you guys can ask questions and whatever, is another thing they found was it's actually the ease of ride sharing that is adding to the pollutants. Because before, if someone had to, if it was difficult to get from place to place, they would avoid the trip altogether, or they would take the bus, they would call a cab, or they would carpool. But now that you can just open up your phone and hit an app and somebody comes and picks you up, they're more likely to take solo rides in ride sharing than they are to take the bus. So what do you guys think? I mean, like I said, we've talked about this before, so this is really nothing really new for us.
Well, when I was Ubering, I didn't have the excess fuel to go riding around, so I would park after each ride because, it's an electric car. It takes a little while to refill it. And so what if they just didn't drive around like gas was free? What impact would that have?
And that is one of the recommendations, and that is why taxis are on average better than the ride sharing, because taxis tend to have lots and they'll sit there, or they'll just pull over and park and wait.
Because they got to pay for that gas.
So I thought it was part of being an Uber and a Lyft driver that you kept moving, that you were cruising a certain area, that was one of the standards that they enforced. Is that not true, Casey?
And in the area I was in, most of us would just stop because I had the electric car, and a lot of them had the airport van type vehicles, like the GMC Acadias and whatnot.
An airport van?
Not really an airport van, but the bigger vehicles.
The
that would stick to
7-passenger
airports.
SUV.
Yes.
Wow.
Because the fuel price made it so they couldn't afford to zip around like a Honda Fit all day or a Toyota Prius.
But aren't the algorithms getting better to tell people like to go to this neighborhood?
Yes. And so what it would try to do is, as you dropped off somebody at the restaurant, it would try to get you somebody coming from the gym to go somewhere else. That way you would stay in motion, but not empty.
Right.
And wouldn't it matter, Tony, that in places like Chicago, even if the car was pulled over and stopped in a gas car, isn't it going to keep running anyways because it's freezing outside?
I mean, situationally, maybe in the winter, maybe, it's situational, of course.
But a car idling to keep the heater on uses almost no fuel compared to a car driving down the road.
Yeah, I did see that in the summertime. They would sit there with their windows down, and I would be the one with the windows up and the AC cranked because it was the opposite in the wintertime. I would sit back with a blanket.
None of these companies make money.
Mm-mm.
They're adding congestion.
They make revenue. They don't make a profit.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought that's what make money meant.
Not according to the stock market.
None of them make
a
profit. They're adding to congestion. They're arguably slowing down. That congestion is slowing down other drivers. Yeah. I get that it's convenient and that the VC money subsidizes rides, so it's a little bit cheaper than a cab. But this is like Amazon. I just don't get how we as a society get to hit ourselves in the head with a stick so that somebody else can be rich. It's weird to me.
See this, Elon? This is why we don't need Ubers as loaner cars. We need Teslas as loaner cars. I mean, come on.
Jesus.
No, I get it, and that is one of the things the Union of Concerned Scientists, they paint this, in my opinion, unrealistic, rosy future, and they say, well, we would do away with the pollution if they just went to an all-electric fleet. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever, that's
tire rubber. And...
my God, that's
yeah.
But I mean, that's rose-colored glasses. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Unless we do like all those dystopian futures where everybody's on a bicycle, like The Giver.
Yeah, there you go. Put everyone on bikes.
But that's not working out in China either. They've got all the EV bikes, and they've got their.
And again, it's tough in Chicago in the middle of winter to put people on bikes.
I would not do that.
Yeah, there is that. That is a challenge.
I mean, in theory, the Uber and Lyft have some good ideas, like the shared ride, which I've taken a few times, where if you're a cheapskate, you say, hey, I'm willing to share the ride, and it will pick up one or two other people along the route. And if they get that algorithm down pat, it actually is more efficient than 3 people taking their own car. Not as efficient as 3 people getting on the bus, but the bus doesn't go everywhere.
What if you didn't need to go into work to do your work, so you worked from home? If you are like a knowledge worker or worked in advertising or someplace where you didn't have to go to the product or to the customer or have them come to you, etc. That would probably.
That's a better answer,
right? Yeah, yeah. I was trying to find.
Paul's going to have a tough time working on those cars at home.
Well,
yeah.
All the people has to go to the customer, to the product.
Yeah.
Or he could put an apartment above the shop.
See, might as well. I'm here enough.
Right.
right. Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna come across, but I want to share this real quick. So the PDF is actually really pretty good, and it's full of charts and stuff. I like charts, and so here's one that they did showing the California Writer survey results, and so what they're showing here is the percentage, according to the survey, of people who if they were not taking the ride sharing, what would they have done? Mass transit, walking, biking, or not taking it at all? And I find it kind of, interesting how people's opinions will shift. Like here, the taxi for non-pooled, 26% or 15% would have, taken a shared taxi, and the others are not that far, taking a bus or a van pool. And so when you're looking at someone just being able to pull out their phone and get an individual car versus waiting for the bus or doing a carpool on sharing a cab, it's I've said it before, it's the ease and convenience of killing ourselves is what's killing ourselves.
Well, and that's why everybody owns a car in America, because convenience and freedom, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What if we put tunnels everywhere and had these electric summonable carriages came to get
skateboards.
you? Skateboards, yeah.
Oh, skateboards. That's a good idea.
And
Skates.
it would bring a bunch of other people who were going the same way, and they would all stop. And
oh my God. That's awesome. And it would be a way to travel the subterranean.
Hey,
so
we could call it a subway.
Oh my God, that's better than my way sub.
Because then you get sued by the sandwich shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, now we've just gone crazy.
I have to kill myself. Thanks.
Well, before you kill yourself, and I know how you can kill yourself. What you need to do is go to Las Vegas and try crossing the street in front of a rich person.
Really, let me be clear on this. Las Vegas is like my second least favorite place to walk. And I love walking in Manhattan, but it's dangerous. So, the story, why am I talking about this? Streets Blog USA last week, Kia Wilson wrote a story, the headline of which is, and I quote, "Study, car sticker price is a predictor of driver aggression towards walkers." Now, I would have said pedestrians, but okay, walkers, whatever.
I mean, it's a predictor of douchebaggery.
This is a University of Nevada researchers videotaped pedestrians in Las Vegas walking across intersections, and what they would do was tally up the results: who stopped for pedestrians, who didn't stop, who stopped at the last minute, who didn't stop at all. And yeah, guess what? Rich people who drive expensive cars are way less polite than people who drive cheap cars. In fact, what was the, let's see, for every $1,000 on the sticker, the driver was 3% less likely to let pedestrians pass safely. So
if you drive a $250,000 car, you just run them over?
Apparently.
That was one of it, was like people not stopping at all. There was actually, it went up to the scale went from stopping for pedestrians to not stopping at all. Yeah.
And I don't know that this is there's a lot of discussion in here. I mean, it's probably not going to surprise anyone watching or on the panel that people who spend a lot of money on their motor vehicle feel that they're entitled to some things, which this study bears out. And more importantly, I think what this does is dovetailing with some other recent studies going back even to 2013 that said that people in cars just really don't give a rat's ass about pedestrians, and they don't follow the law, and they run them down. Again, back to Manhattan, a city well known for not prosecuting drivers for running people over and oftentimes killing them. It's a weird thing that we have all kinds of laws about how you could possibly have hurt someone or killed them or contributed to their death or their injury. Yet if you're in a car and you run some sad bastard down in a crosswalk, the odds are good you're not going to really do a lot for it. Now, I know all of us probably know somebody that was prosecuted and in jail or whatever. I'm not saying everyone, I'm saying in general, we don't prosecute drivers. That's why we call them accidents. That's we frame the whole discussion around the idea that the driver of the motor vehicle is never at fault. And again, I think this just speaks to what a motor vehicle, what a car and truck society we are. That's all I got.
Obligatory, not all douchebags.
I'm sorry?
I said obligatory, not all douchebags. I stopped for pedestrians.
Not all, yeah, I guess, right? Like, yeah. Blue Lives Matter.
But I will say, I lived in Manhattan for 15 years, and the don't walk lights are just a suggestion. I mean, if
that's part of the problem.
The rule in New York for pedestrians, especially the locals who live there, is if you can get across before the taxi cab comes barreling down and hits you, you go regardless of what the light says, because they don't care about what the light says either. And it's more the rule of Darwin is what rules in New York City.
Yeah.
And I think in Vegas, just because the streets tend to be even bigger and wider and move faster.
Well, they're full of podunk tourists that have never been out of their car.
The locals are insane, dude. The locals are insane. I've spent more than enough time. Like, you look at cars with Nevada plates. Next time, here's an exercise for everyone. Next time you're in Las Vegas, look at the cars with Nevada plates and tell me if a huge percentage of them don't have visible dents. Okay? You will find doing your own unscientific survey the next time you're in Las Vegas.
Well, they all have blacked out windows too, so you can't see the driver. You know, they can't see you.
Just like, yeah, I don't think most of them even bother to wipe the blood off. Like, whatever. It's the desert, you know.
So I saw a video on mixed use intersections over in England, and it said that once they removed all the traffic control devices, that the interactions between pedestrians and cars went way down. Except for these one or two choice cases where they managed to get an injunction on
Audi driver
putting more. Oh no, it was like disabled folks. One of them had an issue, and they were able to put an injunction on putting more of these test sites out. And so we don't know really how effective it is, but from what they've seen so far, it other than those handful of cases, it reduced the interaction between people and cars because everybody doesn't know what to do. So there's like people out there and there's cars everywhere, and like everybody's just going slow.
Yeah, I want to say that we did talk about that, and I think Russell brought that up because Russell, you read Streets blog a lot, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was one of even the things we had talked about was one of the issues with the designs that we have here in the United States of the streets is cars, you stay in your lane, pedestrians, you stay in your lane, and so pedestrians, you can do whatever the hell you want as long as you stay on your sidewalk, and cars, you can do whatever you want as long as you stay in your lane, and you can drive as fast as you want because you're isolated from the traffic coming the other way and this. But then you get to intersections and situations where the pedestrians have to step into the roads, and then that to some of the vehicles, some of the drivers, it was like, well, now you're in my territory, you're on my street, and my gas tax paid for this street, and and I own a car, and you're a poor pedestrian, so you have less rights than I do.
But it gets back to like what Russell was saying was even the vernacular of it all, like the term jaywalker. Oh, you're a jay. Well, the history of that is incredible. And when you think about it, like all the streets in the world used to be mixed use, and then they weren't.
Right, because the intention of the design was if we separate the pedestrians and the bikes and the cars, then we won't have any problems because they're separated, and now everyone is safe. But it's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of safety. And I agree. If you one of the reasons, and I remember reading about roundabouts, and one of the reasons roundabouts are so safe. I mean, not only is there no left turn, you don't have people turning into oncoming traffic, but also the fact that people get confused out of their minds. And it's that confusion that forces them to slow down or come to a complete stop. And it's kind of hard to hit somebody when you're at a complete stop.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think I do believe that the study of street design and all of it is absolutely fascinating, and how the civil engineers sit down and plan all this out and have to take all this into consideration. And I do think our streets need to be reevaluated to try to make them safer for everybody.
Yeah, I've been noticing I forget what they call it, but they reduced the number of points on the interchange between the local highway and the interstate. Basically, by making everything left turns to the point where when you get off, you're actually on the opposite. You're traveling on the left side of the road instead of the right.
Yes, that's a new. They just started doing
Diverging
that.
diamond.
Yes, the
yes, there it
diverging
is.
diamond. Yes, yes.
It actually worked pretty well. There's a
They do.
couple around here.
Yeah.
And then in some cities, they're actually removing lanes of traffic to put in wider bike lanes or just islands with trees on them to slow everybody down. And they found that the throughput was higher and the safety was way up, despite removing lanes, which is incredible.
Right, right. We could do a whole show just on street design, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like it, but I don't know. Might put some people to sleep.
So let's move on to another story that is unfortunately, this is all over the news globally. The coronavirus. As we were kind of joking
What you
about
get
it
from drinking Corona beer, right?
is what you get from, which is why I only drink New Glarus. Yes. The Corona and Corona Light. I don't think you get as sick from the Corona Light virus. And I think it's cured with limes.
It's Corona Premier is the least sickness inducing.
Oh, got it. Okay, I had it backwards. I see. That's why I'm not a doctor. Yes. So how and why are we talking about the coronavirus? Well, as we know, we talk about automobile manufacturers and automobiles, and automobile manufacturers have pretty much mastered the entire logistics of just-in-time inventory, supply chain, and all of that. And we know that the hundreds of parts, in some cases thousands of parts that go into a vehicle are coming from a bunch of different places all around the world. And if any of the places the parts come from become affected by the coronavirus, it only takes the absence of one part to bring an entire production line for a particular vehicle to a screeching halt. So
you can't sell the car without a speedometer needle.
Right, yeah, that's kind of important. You can a Tesla, right? Is that where you were going? I know where you were going.
I wasn't going for that because I'm going to add in at the end a little bit about what hit them with this.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just kind of, we talk about automobiles and manufacturers, and yeah, they're really starting to feel it. They're scrambling for parts and preparing for holdups and hiccups and hesitations in their supply lines. And yeah, it might reach a point in which, let's say, an entire shipment of it could be gaskets. And yeah, okay, that's it. Nothing's coming out today because we don't have gaskets. Kind of important.
And a lot of parts, at least the root of the parts, comes from China.
Yep.
And China has the biggest epidemic going on and shutting down that country's manufacturing.
And even if you do want to just build the rest of the car and come back and put the gasket in later, say it's something that at final assembly you can do.
It's in the middle of the engine.
Well, saying if it's not in the middle of the engine, you've now
right.
taken it off your assembly line and you've totally discombobulated the process. So your quality is going to be down. Like even if it is something that can literally, we can go back and do it tomorrow. It's still
and
not
where do you
worth it.
put the 10,000 cars that are waiting for the gasket?
Half done, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's not a gasket. I mean, maybe it's a side trim, or maybe it's just a detail. It's the handle for the glove box. It could be something trivial, but it's important enough that you wouldn't dare try to give it to a customer without it. And then you're right. You have to put those cars somewhere, and then you have to circle back This and as we know, it is not just automobile manufacturers. I mean, we are looking at manufacturers all around the world of just about every complicated appliance out there.
Yeah,
and
that whole
they're gonna be
global
affected
supply
by it.
chain thing isn't really working out well for us right now.
Not right now,
Look at
unfortunately.
VW, where the whole car is done, but the software is missing. They're just out on a lot.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
And so this dovetails into another article that I found. This one from CNN, and it is entitled, "Here's Why Ford Motor Company Still Can't Avoid Bankruptcy." Now, this doesn't even really mention the coronavirus. Instead, it's talking about how Ford stock has been in free fall for quite a while, since about 2014. And they had another rather depressing fourth quarter earnings. So
That's that's a long time to be in free fall, isn't it?
it is. You would think
Yeah.
you would hit the ground eventually. So maybe not free fall.
6 years is a long time to be dropping.
Right. It is.
It's a slow
No, it
motion
is, yeah.
fall.
Yeah, I mean, maybe free fall is not the word, but looking at the chart here, and there's a chart in the article, and it's pretty much, it's almost 45 degrees from, and it's only $17.50 at its high, and it's down to about $7.50 now, but it's a straight drop. And what's interesting is the automobiles have not been selling very well. It's actually the Ford Credit Company that is keeping the entire company afloat.
Wow.
So here I'm talking about not being able to manufacture vehicles, and then I come back and say it's the credit company that's keeping them afloat. Well, here's what also happens. The coronavirus is affecting manufacturing facilities, and which is affecting employees. And Ford is already starting to see their credits with what's it the what's the when people are behind.
Yeah,
Delinquency. There we go. Yeah, thanks. They're starting to see their delinquency going up, and it's only going to get worse.
Yes.
As the coronavirus takes up, as people start losing jobs. Yeah.
Or people are told not to come to work and they don't get a paycheck, and how do they pay their car loan?
exactly.
Right. And that turns into an entire, spiral right there. They're told not to come into work because the factory's been shuttered. They can't make the payment on the car. So someone's going to come and repo their car, and then when the factory starts up again, they can't get to work.
And now they don't have workers, so they can't build the car. So
So there's this whole cycle that is, how we're going to be impacted by this whole thing before it's over, and then the ripples after it's quote unquote over is going to linger for possibly years.
And this virus has got that 14-day waiting period. Like, it's not like a typical cold where you stay away for 3 days and you're okay. Now people have to stay away for 14 days, 2 weeks. They may be in isolation, self-imposed isolation. And, even then you're second guessing yourself. And of course, the employees that are at work know you're away for that. And they must be real happy when you show up on day 15. There's a lot of people that are second guessing the advice. I'm sure.
Saying 14 to 21 days. Yeah, but 14 is what they keep saying. Rule of thumb, 14.
Right.
But so to bring my Tesla content to it, there were some Chinese Model 3s that were being built with Autopilot 2.5 computers, and some of the folks were just pitching a fit. There were literally no other computers to put in. If you don't put any computer, the car won't go.
Right.
And
wait, Tesla's supply constrained?
Geez, let's not go there.
So just like all the other automobiles, they are putting in A parts so the car can go, and then if you purchase the full self-drive, they were going to upgrade you for free anyway, but because the folks had brought such a stink about, they're actually upgrading everybody to the 3.0 computer, even if it won't actually make a difference for them.
So when Elon in April of last year said that every car from now on would have full FSD hardware, what did he mean?
So Casey, now you understand why I don't like the Tesla tangents, because it turns into the Tesla life. I mean,
So
everybody drink.
So literally, they just didn't have any 3.0 computers because they come from here to put them in China, and so that supply constrained them, and it made the factory have a choice of, hey, we've got these old computers laying around. Do we use them, or do we shut down the factory? Which we just opened back up.
In that
Just
case,
once.
Russell, don't you dare take the lid off this again. In that case, to follow up what we were talking about, I would be perfectly fine with a manufacturer putting any part to get it out the door, to get it in hand, rather than having them have to build a car incomplete, shelve it, store it, and circle back. I have no problem with that decision, as long as you can bring it in and they can replace it, and upgrade or whatever later.
Yeah, which they said they were going to do now. So,
Yep.
But I mean, you've got factories in South Korea and Japan that are shutting down as well for this same thing. This thing was not handled as well as we could worldwide, and it's caused a global. I wouldn't even call it a ripple. I'd call it a big old wave,
Right.
tsunami, if you will. And
Yeah.
it's only getting worse.
Right, and like I said, I mean, we only focus on transportation, but it's going to affect, like I said, every
everything.
complicated appliance that has a global supply chain is going to be affected in some way.
And even like some unrelated company that gets a piece of the widget sent over from China on an air freighter, well, a lot of the freight goes on passenger planes, and they've cut back half the passenger flights. So, now there's going to be freight constraints shipping parts. So
they're not going to charter their own plane. They just stick it in the bottom of the passenger plane, which is.
I mean, there are some freight carriers like DHL and FedEx and stuff, but they can't handle all the freight. And Japan Airlines, China Airlines would always fill the belly with freight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to get uglier before it gets better.
Yeah.
Whatever doesn't stop is going to go way up in price.
Yeah. Well, I feel we're going to revisit this several times over the next few years. So in the meantime, I want to kick it over to Russell for the last article of the night.
Well, let's go back to Corona. I just want everybody to know that our favorite car company, Toyota, used to have a car company or a car model called the Corona in the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Corona and the Crown.
Yep. I heard they were going to bring it back, but now they canceled that.
They could bring it back with a different name, something like the COVID-19.
Corona Light.
Yeah, the COVID-19. I like that.
Yes. Okay, Russell. Now you can rant.
Oh, you want
I just
me
warmed
to
him
do
up
the
earlier.
story now?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Sorry, I got you in trouble, Russell. Now is your turn.
So last week I used the F word in a story about the Tesla Buffalo factory.
You did.
I did, and I want to.
I was there.
I'm sorry.
Said you did. We were there.
I did. And that effort was fraud. I said it was an outright fraud. And I want to reinforce that this week. So Tesla fans, take a drink. David Robinson of the Buffalo News published a story today about the Riverbend Tesla factory. Just again, to keep in mind, the state of New York is into this factory. And by into it, I mean the state of New York paid almost $1 billion, over $950 million for the factory and the equipment so that Tesla could come in and fulfill the terms of the contract and start a business and hire people for a certain kind of job and all of this. And since then, Tesla has done none of that. Now, we can argue, and everybody else will get a chance, of course, to rebut what I have to say. But in my opinion, none of this has happened. And the reporting in the Buffalo News seems to back that up. This week, they announced that Tesla had moved about $50 million worth of manufacturing equipment that had not previously been used. This was equipment purchased by the state of New York that Tesla never used. It was in the way. They moved it to a warehouse in near Niagara Falls. Now the state of New York is possibly going to sell it or auction off that equipment to try and recoup some of their investment. The other interesting thing in the story is that it does explain that Panasonic's pulling out, as we mentioned last week, of the factory, and that will result in the loss of 380 jobs. Tesla said it may hire some of the workers as temps. And that would be less than the Tesla wage, and Tesla would be under no commitment to keep them for any length of time. In other words, once the $41.2 million potential fine from the state of New York would have to be levied in April, once that passes, then they can fire everybody and go back to doing nothing in an empty building that they didn't pay for. That, ladies and gentlemen, is fraud, and it's horrible because, as we've all said, and as I've said on the show, solar's super important. Other companies are making money with it. You can make money with it. You just have to do it. And that's not something that Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, has shown much interest in, other than, of course, bailing out him and his cousins. That's it.
So this facility that they acquired when they acquired Solar City, didn't it also used to fail at making solar panels for
Solyndra?
Yes.
And so that is relevant because...
So was the equipment ordered for Solar
Tesla.
City or for Tesla? Yes. All right, now, so is this a case of they were a victim of the build fast and break shit, or...
I'm sorry, Tesla was a victim?
No. The fact that there was waste. You know how, like, these other industries do, like the... with the rockets, hey, we're going to build it out of carbon fiber. Throw that all away. We're going to make it out of steel. Is it like that?
Well, these things had never been used.
Right.
I mean, it says in here a couple of times it had never been used.
Right, but they are the Muscicos are want to turn on a dime, and it does take a little bit of lead time to get industrial equipment ordered, delivered, and installed. So, did they pivot before it just arrived, or?
If somebody buys you something and you realize you don't need it, I mean, the logical, adult, mature, responsible thing to do is put it in a warehouse,
which they did,
Niagara Falls, and tell no one about it.
They paid for the warehouse.
Why not give it back? That's what I'm saying. That was sarcasm on my part. Hey,
you're
know
frozen
what?
On my screen, so I couldn't see your facial expression. Okay. I'm sorry.
I thought it was the tone of voice and the fact that it was a stupid thing to say. But if the state of New York bought it and said, "Here's a bunch of equipment," and Tesla says, "You know what? We don't need this equipment. Why don't you take it back?
Yeah.
Cancel the order, give it back, or do something." And I'm not going as far as Russell. I'm not saying fraud. I'm saying they I know Russell's going there, but I mean, we know they had to pay to warehouse it.
Yeah.
Why pay to warehouse it?
That seems like a waste. An additional waste.
Yes, exactly.
Well, maybe they wanted to make the state think they were using that equipment to do something.
Why would they want to do that, Paul?
If they wanted to make the state think they were doing it, they would have left it where it was.
Right.
Because according to Russell, they're doing nothing at all. So why would it matter if it sits where it was sitting? They're not doing anything according to Russell, so you may as well just leave it there.
What are they doing?
So with Panasonic pulling out, will they have a use for this again, or is it still just not their process?
No, the state wants to sell it.
But if they put it in use before it's sold?
No, it's
gone. It's done.
I'm sorry. If you're warehousing something for years, since what was it 2014, 2015? It says they bought the equipment, and the state says, "Okay, we're going to sell it now," and you suddenly say, "Well, wait a minute, I'm using that."
This isn't rocket science. This isn't research and development. Tesla had a proposal to get this money from the state of New York. They wanted this factory to do something very specific. They had a product or products they were going to make. The state of New York bought the factory, upgraded it, bought the equipment, and suddenly Tesla didn't want to make that equipment.
And the reason is that Tesla rushed out with a product that didn't work. And that's the things,
where we are today.
Things have changed on the solar tile roof. They said they had a product that worked. It doesn't work. They couldn't make it work. They've gone through 2 previous iterations. They say they now have a 3rd one that does work. But in that process,
and they thought they could fix it in software, the next version.
And in that process, they lost 2 years worth of time, and they had to lay off a ton of workers, and they didn't have, it was a cluster, and it continues to be a cluster. But I believe that they're trying to move forward with the setbacks they've had.
Yeah.
Now, if the state of New York had signed an agreement with Tesla that said you're going to hire X amount of workers, you're going to pay X amount of wages, okay, there's a contract. So guess what? Tesla has to abide by the contract. If they don't, then they get sued. So okay, they know that. So that's the agreement. That's the way business is supposed to be run. Let the chips fall where they may. That's it.
So does Tesla have 1,200 janitors now pushing brooms around the factory?
Who cares what they're doing?
Well,
As long as they're
true.
abiding by the contract, that's all they have to do according to the state of New York.
If you have a number of people earning a certain amount, yeah.
Why are you muted, Russell?
Russell is muted. He's self-muted.
I didn't mute him, just for the record. And but I do want to say
Tony muted me.
I did not. I do think that just on a quick tangent, Tesla's next vehicle should be the cluster truck. I think that would be awesome. I don't know what it would look like. It would not be pretty, but it should be the cluster truck.
They already have that.
Toyota pods, the one-person pods, and they all join together like Voltron or Power Rangers, whatever.
Ooh, I like that. Yes.
That'd be great. And then it would become Starship.
Yeah.
Like if you have 10 Cybertrucks, you can become Starship and go to Mars. Yes, I'm making fun of you. Not you specifically, Casey, but
We'll come back next week and we'll see what the next story is. From New York. Yeah.
I have to say that other than avoiding the fee, I can't imagine that they would want this thing to fail. It looks like they're trying, and it appears that the solar roofs solar glass is coming out to more non-employees, but we'll see what happens.
more non-employees.
I mean, we said, we say this every time. We want solar to succeed. We want batteries to succeed. We want EVs to succeed. We want everything to succeed. We're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on in Buffalo.
I don't want everything to succeed. I want good technologies to succeed. Okay. I want consumers to have good choices. I know that's what you meant, Tony.
Yeah,
I'm just,
you
know, this really could have been avoided if Tesla Home Energy was an honest company, and it's not. And it hasn't been run that way. And that's the part that's frustrating. If they'd have just made solar panels and power walls, I would have nothing to say except, yeah, that's so awesome. Like, and if they were struggling doing that, but they're not.
I think it would have been, even if it would have been awesome if they would have started with standard solar panels, like the ones behind Russell right now.
That's what those are.
Yeah, it would have just made those money.
China.
Made money, turned a profit.
I don't think they ever made them, right? They just pulled them in they were pre-made.
So,
they do have some Tesla and Solar City branded equipment. I don't know necessarily that it was 100% made by them.
Maybe assembled.
Or at least rebranded.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion.
Oh, you got lots of NDA opinions on that one. There's no doubt of that. You got too many.
All right, so you know what? It's almost an hour. I think we're almost done, and so I'm going to get to shout outs. But first, I want to remind everybody that I don't know where you're watching or listening to the show, but make sure and look for us online at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Maybe you're watching us on YouTube. youtube.com/whatdrivesus. And if you don't watch audio podcasts. It's really boring. If you listen to audio podcasts, you can find us on Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, Apple. Is there a fifth one? I forgot. I think there's a fifth one. something, whatever.
Slacker, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
To
Whatever.
Netflix.
Yeah. And Netflix. Whatever. Look for us. So yeah,
Spotify.
look for us. Yeah. Look for us on Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go. You won't find us on any of those, but make sure and look for us.
I like that.
Okay.
We need
Yes.
to find these guys and put them on our networks.
Yes. All right, so let's start with the shout-outs. Mark, I'm going to start with you. You have any particular shout-outs?
If you haven't already, please give us the thumbs up on the video. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? This is your chance. Subscribe, helps us, gives us a number, puts us in front of more people, and we would appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks. All right, Casey, do you have any new reviews?
I do. I visited my second published V3 Tesla supercharger, and I changed up the review format completely. And check it out at youtube.com/KCGreen. That's Kilo Alpha, Charlie Echo Yankee, Golf Romeo Echo Echo November.
That Casey is confusing. Just spell it out.
K-A-C-E-Y.
Can you shorten that?
K-A-C-E-Y G-R-E-E-N. And just let me know what you think of the new format, because I'm going to start making them that way. So if I could get some feedback before they're all baked in, that would be awesome.
All right, great. Thanks. Paul, what kind of specials do you have this week?
Same old bunch of used hybrids and electric cars. And unfortunately, I may not be available the next couple weeks because I am moving my shop to a nicer facility. But unfortunately, I have to move it over the next 30 days, which is going to be hell.
Oh my gosh.
We'll still be in Boulder. And it's a great space, but it's a monumental task to move 10 years of Prius parts.
Oh my gosh.
And the equipment, like the racks and stuff too.
Yeah. Oh,
and everything that you have is heavy. Everything.
Oh yeah. Everything. Everything. I've got like 100 hybrid batteries. They're not fun to move.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
so there's a hybrid battery sale going on. Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly. Yeah, if you need a hybrid battery in the next 2 weeks, I'll cut you a deal. Look me up.
There you go. Take Paul up on that.
Just gonna walk off with a hybrid battery. I mean,
Paul, I want them just to have in the house. You know?
Yeah, I don't have a Prius. I'll just order one.
We had an old 40-year-old electric forklift that the lead acid battery shit the bed. So we took 4 Prius batteries and stacked them and rejiggered them. And now we have a Prius battery-powered forklift, and it works awesome compared to the lead acid.
That's awesome. That's great, man. And is that the forklift?
But it works.
So is that the forklift you're going to use to move the other batteries?
Yes.
See, that's the circle of life right there, my friend.
That's beautiful, Paul. I'm crying.
I can't wait. After so in a few weeks when you're fully moved, you'll give us the new address and the new location and everything.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way.
All right. Yeah. Cool. And now this new place, does it have an apartment above where you're going to be living?
No, it does not.
Okay. All right.
But,
is there a brewery next door?
There's no brewery next door.
I think you picked the wrong place.
But it is across the street from a high school with a shop program, so maybe we can get some interns out there.
I loved auto shop in school. It was awesome.
Yeah, and there's very few high schools do auto shop anymore. So
that would be a cool tie-in, man, if you could do that. Teach the new kids.
Is the brewery taking over the current place?
No.
Okay.
No. It's some manufacturing company. I don't know.
It's not a dispensary or anything?
No.
It'll be a church.
It's a firm that's making washers because no one can get them anymore.
Yeah. They're making gaskets for all those engines.
It's being it's going to be the Colorado Center for the Mike Bloomberg campaign.
Wow.
Oh yeah, right about that.
You should have just sent every American a check for a couple of bucks. He would have come out ahead.
All right. Before we solve all the world's problems, I'm gonna kick it over to my wingman, Russell Frost. Bring us home, man.
Oh yeah. Did Mark get a chance to do?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I guess I was sleeping. I'm sorry. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com and buy a song or two as long as you don't give CD Baby any of your money, okay? So support Michael Manthing because
And why not, Russell?
CD Baby sucks. Is that what you want? You just is the whole point of this show turned into just baiting me until I say something negative?
I think so. Yeah.
Makes us happy.
Russell shouts at cloud.
I really love my Hydro Flask.
All right, that works.
Okay. There's something nice. Anyway, it's manthing.com. Please support him because he helps support the show. I want to do a shout out to all 1,444 subscribers on YouTube. That's at youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Thank you so much. I'm trying again. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support. And along those lines, we are working really hard behind the scenes to do more cool stuff. I just did a show before this show with Matthew Klippenstein about the Nikola Motors merger and what that means for fuel cell vehicles. And it's a great show. So not only are you going to have this episode to watch tonight, but you'll have another special one-on-one episode. Thank you, all of you who subscribe, make that possible. So please suggest it to your friends, post it, share the link, and say, hey, you know what? This is a cool show. Check it out. That's all I can ask.
And a special thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. That is above and beyond anything we would ever ask anyone to do. I mean, we still ask people to do it, but we never actually expected anyone to take us seriously. So thank you, each and every one of you, for as little as $1 a month. And, it's not like we're going to quit our jobs and take this up full time. Those of us, those of you who have jobs, to quit. But it is things like, maybe we could get better microphones, or maybe we could get better, like better cameras for doing car reviews, or, if one of the things Russell and I were talking about in the Ford Mach-E video that I did at the Chicago Auto Show, Lisa Teed of Ford was so damn nice to do an interview with us, and we only had the one collar mic, and she had to stand there and hold it. And I mean, nothing really made me feel so amateurish than to have an official Ford representative have to stand there and hold the microphone during the interview. So I mean, it'd be great if to get a wireless mic, or to get something like that, just so we can do a more quality product. And that's what it's all about. It's not like we're trying to bankroll ourselves. We just want to make the show a little better, and we have each and every one of you to thank for that.
I'm looking for a new Rolex too. Oh wait, just kidding. Just kidding.
All right, so with that, I want to wrap it up. Thank everybody. I want to thank everybody who was on the show tonight. I have Mark, I have Russell, I have Casey, I have Paul. Thank everybody for sticking it out all the way to the very end right now. So with that, I want to say, make sure you tune in or download next week and find out what drives us.
See you, everybody. Thank you.